Okay, we're going to talk about the upcoming election. A lot of people have already voted. I have, and the election right now. It's Sunday, the 4th of November, 2012. Supposedly, the way this election is being sold to us is Obama versus Romney. Okay, let me explain some reality to you. Okay, especially with these two pictures. These two pictures are of the party faithful of both parties and the one group of delegates. This is at one of their conventions, is holding up signs that say vote early. These are the party faithful. Okay, these are the people on the left-wing side who threw out a lot of the environmentalists. They threw out some of the labor rights people on the lower end of the labor rights movement, and they really want to do their idea of what they call mainstream. On the other side, on the Republican side, these are the people that threw out the Libertarian Ron Paul delegates, and then we're truly behind what I call the Ron Paul betrayal, which was Ron Paul basically quit the election, didn't want to upset things for the Republican Party as a whole. When it really came down to it, his people accurately determined that the majority of Ron Paul supporters were actually libertarians. A lot of them were new Republicans. They were not representative of the party faithful, and that they wanted to dictate policy, not have the party dictate the policy to them. So they were effectively told, get along or get out, and Ron Paul voluntarily quit the election and decided to support Romney. As you can see, the polls right now are getting very close, and what happens when the polls get very close is the protest vote and the swing vote becomes an issue of very strong speculation. And if you want to leverage your vote more in a presidential election than has been done in the last 20 years, vote third party right now, and you send a message to the politics as usual that maybe it's politics as usual. They're going to argue back and forth over how the vote went and who was really a majority. But what they will fully understand, if we can get the protest vote over 5%, is that the libertarian viewpoint on issues matters so much that we are the people that can throw an election either way when it's close. We are the people who will be the deciders of which way politics is going to swing, because we are the swing vote. These people in these pictures who are the party faithful are not going to change themselves. You're not going to convince them of anything. They are what they are. They are the party faithful, and they will pretend to be opposed to each other, and then they're going to make the deals with each other. However, it's the Gary Johnson crowd, it's the Ron Paul throwouts who are the swing vote and will remain the swing vote for several years to come as we get into other elections, other issues, other voter referendums. And I'm going to say this, if you have strong loyalty to one party or the other, and you value freedom and liberty, consider filling in, writing in libertarian candidates. If libertarian candidates are available on your ballot, go ahead and consider voting for them, especially in the smaller elections. Judicial elections are frequently unopposed. Now, I want to just look. Judicial elections are critically important on the issues of freedom. I'm going to bring up this New York Times article here, and their opinion, I think, is a little bit different. But the thing is, only 32 states right now are holding contested elections for retention votes of judges. There's a lot of judicial elections right now where the judges run entirely unopposed. Now, you can talk presidential politics because a lot of people are well versed in it. What a lot of people don't understand is judicial elections are critically important for day-to-day freedom issues. Judges are the ones who decide whether or not there's been a police brutality incident. Judges are the ones who decide whether or not a case is going to move forward on the basis of whether or not your freedom or rights have been violated. Judges who control jury instructions have a tremendous amount of control over whether or not a jury is going to receive instructions or implied instructions related to jury nullification on bad laws. And all it takes is a few good judges spaced out in a few different areas, enough to have something happen in a couple of different federal districts, to have cases go to the Supreme Court, which otherwise would never get there if primary large party politics were the only politics involved. And you need to consider judicial elections to be critically important if your politics, whichever they may be, are not mainstream, or if you're libertarian politics. If you're a dyed-in-the-wool hardcore communist, you don't bother voting. You know, I don't care. Don't you know? You're not an American, so fuck you. But the thing is, if you're if you truly believe in freedom and freedom of lifestyle, regardless of what that lifestyle may be, as long as you're not going out and harming others in some majorly bad way, consider libertarian endorsed judges, consider libertarian endorsements on candidates, even if that candidate may have had to register themselves under a major party, which happens a lot. Okay, the Libertarian Party and libertarians can endorse candidates from other parties. And as we demonstrate that the libertarian vote is a swing vote, we're going to have power in much greater proportion to the number of people we have, because effectively we're going to be roughly equal to the mid-level leadership of any of the major parties. In the major parties, if you're just a member in a major political party, you do what you're told, okay? The party leadership tells you what the platforms are going to be, and then you support those platforms, or they kick you out of the party. Now, there's a lot of people who could say, I'm in this party or that party, and I disagree with it, and I'll vote any way I can because it's a secret vote. Well, you can vote any way you can because it's a secret vote. However, what's going to happen is you cannot vote any way you can if you become visibly politically active and campaign on somebody's behalf. At that stage, you're going to say, listen, you're not eligible for this party membership because you don't support our party platforms. They may do that openly, the way the Democrat Party these days does that relatively openly, or they can do it covertly, the way the Republican Party was doing it at the various party conventions, kicking out the Ron Paul delegates who were actually libertarians. If they've done their intelligence work, they've figured out who you are, your ability to get into one of the political parties and influence it is minimal. So I want people to understand that if you do, especially if you're just kind of throwing your arms up and said, man, the elections don't matter, my vote doesn't matter, I'm just going to go out on election day, I'm not going to get in line to vote. Consider going there, voting a libertarian bloc, and before that, find out what the judicial elections are in your area. Find out what the attorney general elections are. Governor elections, again, become a little bit less important. However, they matter if we can get libertarian governors. Congressional elections quite frequently run unopposed. Not always, but frequently. I would say that judicial elections, though, most of the time run unopposed. It's probably too late to campaign anybody all that hard because you had to be registered ahead of time, but you can look at a lot of campaigns where a righteous person had registered on the campaign, maybe doesn't have a lot of backing on it. Here in Oregon, there's a guy named Jim Leuenberger who frequently runs for office under the Libertarian Party. I don't think he's won anything, but his opinion and his place as an attorney has become a force to be reckoned with in local politics at the state level. I think right now he's running for state attorney general. His chances of winning are minimal. However, the more votes he gets, the more it tells the public and the decision makers, hey, wait a minute, these libertarians matter. And they can swing a vote either way. So we better look out, and we better not pick fights with the libertarians, because they can cost us a major election. In the meantime, when you start getting libertarians in office in lower offices, which are more important in day-to-day life than a presidential office, day-to-day life for domestic Americans here in the United States, it matters more who the politicians are closest to you than who it is that's far away in Washington, D.C. So consider this, especially if you consider yourself a non-voter. You're saying, hey man, I don't like politics as usual. I don't want the big system telling me what to do. But I want them to know that, yeah, I care, but I'm not picking either one of you guys. I'm doing a protest vote. I will show up and do something. And you also have to realize that if this country ever comes to a revolution in the name of freedom, the only deterrent to that is going to be people showing up and doing something. That's what a demonstration is. A demonstration in the name of freedom means, hey, if we're going to show up to a protest, if we're going to show up and vote this time, and we're still getting ignored, disregarded through peaceful means, and unpeaceful means are being used against us, then we're going to consider other means in the future. Now, I'm not advocating that at this stage of the game right now. However, what I am advocating is consider third-party protest votes, and consider these judicial elections where the major parties don't throw a lot into these things, because even they don't know a lot about these judges. Okay, there are people who get onto the Supreme Court that the major parties don't really know enough about, and then they'll put somebody on a Supreme Court, and it's like, holy shit, this guy wasn't really one of our guys. Judges are pretty sneaky about that, but they're usually relatively straightforward about whether or not they're going to call themselves a libertarian constitutionalist, and by nature, they're supposed to be a constitutionalist. So consider this in this election cycle.